Township News 1, hosted by AC Justice, bringing you the best in news and entertainment. Let's give thanks to our special guests. Remember, we do all sides, the accused, the accuser, and then we fact check. And also, a special edition of Crime Grind. Let's get ready to be informed. Join us. Township News 1, all copyrights reserved.
This body of governing individuals to determine any of us eligibility. So let's just be clear on that. And that also has been said by Roper, who represents the city, when he filed his appeal at the 5th District Court, that the city council does not have the mechanism or the tools to conduct such a meeting in a fashion for which we are not, and I repeat myself, we are not a judicial body of the court. We are elected officials and legislators. That's who we are. So I want to make that clear, that I am here because I'm here to defend myself. I am here to defend the voters who elected me. And so, let's be clear. You know, a lot of people that came out for this event, it's a lot of people that comes out for other events, but they don't come out for the real stuff. And yet, yes, this is a target on the minority, and that's the bottom line. Okay? So, I'm turning this. By the way, I just turned the gavel over to Mrs. Sweat, and my attorney, Jimmy Jimenez, who is sitting here, will be also addressing this council. Thank you.
I ask that you please be respectful. Thank you. The new business is consideration of declaration of forfeiture of office of Mayor George Rosario in accordance with Section 3.06A and B, the Charter of the City of Groveland.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Sweat. On January 2nd, the City Council by majority vote scheduled this special meeting to take place for the purpose of considering a declaration of forfeiture of office of Mayor Rosario. The documents that were previously provided to Council last January were included in your packet for your consideration. I did want to update Council, and on a phone call I received yesterday afternoon, while I was out of the office, I returned the call today. It was a call from the Department of Justice, Office of Civil Rights, and in speaking with the gentleman, he indicated that Mr. Rosario had contacted his office, had provided him a copy of a letter from the State of Florida Office of Executive Clemency, executed by Julia McCann. He read me a portion of the letter. I requested a copy. I have not received a copy. He indicated he would reach out to Mayor Rosario and ask Mayor Rosario to provide me with a copy. I still have not received a copy. I called the gentleman back this afternoon, again asked that he fax or email me a copy. Did not receive it. Mr. Roper, I reached out to him to contact litigation counsel who represented Mr. Rosario in the Wilson versus City and Rosario case to see if he could get a copy. And that attorney had advised Mr. Roper that at this time, he was not authorized to release any documents. So I have not read the letter. The gist of the letter, as I understood it, was to advise that the state of Florida recognizes Mr. Rosario's right to vote because the state of Pennsylvania recognizes his right to vote, but that he would have to apply for a full pardon to the state of Pennsylvania, as that was where the conviction was lodged. I haven't seen the letter, as I told you, so I don't know what it says other than that, but that was my understanding, that it addresses his voting rights, not his eligibility to hold office. Without seeing the letter, I can't tell you anything more.
Mr. Carver, what was the date of that letter?
I don't know the exact date. The gentleman on the phone from Department of Justice advised that it was dated February of 2017.
some 11 months ago.
Yes, sir.
And the city has received nothing in 11 months, although we have requested some sort of documentation on 5 separate occasions. We've got nothing at all to this date.
Correct.
Thank you.
So I think at this point, it's back to the council for a motion or discussion.
Is my attorney going to be allowed to address this council? I introduced him and said that he is here to address this council.
Yes, if you'd like him to address the council at this time, that's fine, or he can address the council after the motion is made in council discussion. That way he can hear what they have to say, but certainly he is permitted to address the council.
Jim?
And the time limit on that would be?
There's no time limit.
There wouldn't be a time limit. I would recommend that as long as it's reasonable, but I would not limit him to the 5 minutes that you hold the public to.
With the consideration of declaration of forfeiture, do I have a motion?
I make a motion that Mr. Rosario has forfeited his position as mayor because he's a convicted felon, does not have the pardon or restoration of his civil rights prior to qualifying for the mayor's seat in June 2016, and hereby declare a vacancy.
Do I have a second?
I second that motion.
Okay, now we're here for your attorney, Mr. Rosario.
Jimmy?
This is too easy.
Jim, mic up a little bit higher. Jim, mic a little higher. State your name for the record, please.
Jim Hernandez, Esquire. Jimenez. Jimenez.
Are we going to control the audience tonight?
This is an unlawful hearing with an unlawful target, Mr. Rosario, based on unlawful claims, based on issues that have been dismissed by the court. The only place that Mr. Rosario has the adequate remedy, he's always real. He wanted the 50CA, who said that this was not a proceeding in accordance with the laws. And 2 causes of action: coarento, which means his qualifications for office under Florida Statute 80, and writ of mandamus. Both have been dismissed by the people who don't like something about him. We don't know what it is, but this is what I'm here to state. Whatever you guys decide tonight, it's only over in your minds, because we're not going to let this go. We're going to go forward, notwithstanding. So, Mr. Rosario was elected by the voters of Florida. His rights were violated in a way that's indescribable by a friend of people who are friends to the people who are here, or allies, or in some way, fashion, or form, connected. We do not know where these people have been connected by virtue of violating laws, sunshine laws, ex parte laws, and of course with the statutes of the ordinances. This is what we know. We're clear that Rosario is like Trump. Actually, you know, you're talking to the Trump voter, and I'm not intimidated at all. At all. Trump was hated from the moment he was elected, not from the moment he did anything. Rosario is the same thing. It's his election that created a ruckus. It's not any action. If you include Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's, and if you throw in the little Hispanic, we don't want to offend anybody, but extension. Rosario's really not been in office at all. Like in 2016, put out 2015, 2017, January 5th, 10 months, DCA, everywhere where there's been a court hearing, with people that are qualified and in a position to actually make a judgment, Rosario has prevailed. The 5th DCA said he's right. The person who brought this lawsuit, who's got allies sitting or not sitting, I'm not sure where they are, I don't really care. This deal is a done deal. This is not over tonight. Not at all. It's a big mistake to think for anyone that this is over tonight. It's not over. This is just beginning. Because there's a lot of corruption and a lot of things that will be unsealed. A lot of things that will be covered. I recommend that the city council move to actually move away from this thing. You're not called for to do this. You're not lawfully authorized to do this. The person who brought the lawsuit was the guy, the boss hog of, I remember the boss hog from Hazard County. Yeah, and he may have power over you. I don't know. Me? My slide I represent.
Can you please, anybody else, please?
Please keep this down.
Yeah, I just want to make everybody know that there's no fear. Because I think that people sometimes
The
misconfuse.
issue is
The audience
the
can
background
hear.
noise now, Mr. Davis. It's the background noise, not so much you, background noise.
And are you presiding over this meeting, Mr.
No, I
Razak?
just wanted to ask for
So, it is clear that this is not a constitutional meeting. It's not that. There's no rules, regulations. There's nothing in this body. There's nothing been submitted that was different from last year, January 3rd. January 3rd was submitted by, with all due respect to my colleague, Anissa Rossi Carver. She lost in court because she had nothing to say. And her silence was overturned by the court as a, simply something that didn't make sense. The 5th District Court of Appeals, together with the Florida Constitution, do not authorize anybody in this body to make a decision regarding what is lawful tonight. So, my recommendation is that, you know what? We recommended last year, January 3rd, let's look into this thing. That's what Mayor Azar did. Mayor Azar did not say, you know what, I'm above the law. He said, let us look into this further to see whether indeed this is a matter that is worthy of this body to take on. So, my point is very clear. This body does not have the authority under the law. They do not have the authority under the Constitution or under the state law to take any action against the mayor. And that's as simple as it is. And we reserve every right to come against anyone or any body who makes this their own situation. Cases have been dismissed by Mr. Wilson against the city and against Rosario. That's not because there's anything having to do with the way that things are conducted. That's because there's no case. There is no case. Mr. Wilson did not give up the case of Cowarranto, which is the only proceeding allowed under federal law to go against Mr. Rosario. chapter, section 80 of the Florida statutes. He did not do that because he's a good man. I'm not here to judge his heart, but he did it because there was no question of law. He also dismissed the city because there's no river mandamus action to force the city to avoid the forfeiture. So I'm here to say tonight that there's nothing in the statutes or the record, including Mike Roper, by the way, who I've got all of his submissions to the court. All of his submissions to the court. And Mike Roper, who is the city council for this legislative body, states clearly that quo warranto under Florida Chapter 80, which is a a judicial body, meaning qualified people in court, is the primary and only existential body and term to deal with this, not a council. Florida statute furthermore states, and I'm going to be done real quick, because this is not. First of all, we're not appealing. We're not here to appeal. We do not recognize the authority of the council to recognize the authority of the mayor to have office. So we are here to say, notwithstanding these proceedings, that there's nothing in Florida statutes that calls for forfeiture of office, except for property and matters dealing with retention, issues dealing with issues dealing with sorry, let me read from this. In fact, as here, petitioner seeks a different petition right to hold and exercise public office in the absence of statute to the contrary. A petition for writ quo warranto is the inclusive method for making such a determination. That is for Mike Roper, the attorney for the city. So, other than carry forfeit based on issues related to property, there's nothing this council has a right to do with respect to Mayor Rosario. Thank you.
Thank you. We will take public comment, but please form a line behind the podium.
We can discuss this item amongst ourselves.
Yes, we will.
I think we should be discussing this item first before we make a public comment.
That's great.
If the council would like to discuss it first, that's fine.
Want to do it first? All right, please wait, the council's going to discuss it first.
Sure. So just to summarize the events of the last year and a couple of months, on December the 19th, I had asked George in the announcement section if he had the right to hold office considering his felony conviction. He told me that it was none of my business and to talk to his attorney. I explained to him that it was our business because if he was not allowed to hold office, his votes could be disallowed and would be wasting taxpayer money. On December the 20th, Derek Shaw, an attorney for I think Mr. Wilson, sent a letter to Mr. Rosario giving him 10 days to produce the documents proving that he was able to hold office in accordance with Article 6, Section 4 of the Constitution of the State of Florida. On December 23rd, the city attorney recommended that if Mr. Rosario had documentation showing that he had all of his civil rights restored, that he provide a copy to the city and the city attorney. On December the 26th, an email was sent to Mr. Rosario asking if he had applied for or been granted clemency. There was no response to that, to the 19th, to the 26th, to the 20th or the 23rd. On January 3rd, an agenda item regarding the declaration of forfeiture of office was tabled without mention of a date to bring it back to the council for action, so it effectively died. On March the 1st, which is probably the most important of the dates, because when we talk about cold warrant doe and other issues, there was an attempt to schedule a meeting or a hearing in front of Judge Briggs with the intent of requesting a copy of Mr. Rosario's pardon or paperwork, indicating that he had all of his civil rights restored. March the 1st, this could have been over with a real simple hearing. However, Mr. Rosario's attorneys decided to file a complaint with the 5th District Court of Appeals. On December the 4th, there was a council consensus to request that Mr. Rosario produce the pardon or documents restoring his civil rights and gave him 7 days to do so. Mr. Rosario said he did not have to produce anything, and we have not received anything to date. With all that said, there have been at least 5 separate instances where Mr. Rosario was asked to provide a copy of his pardon or proof that his civil rights have been restored prior to him qualifying for the June 2016 election. We have not been provided with that information as of this very moment. It's also worth noting that in 2010, there was some confusion as to whether Mr. Rosario was a registered voter. It turned out he had a hidden registration. When asked, he promptly reached into his wallet, produced a voter registration card. It would seem to me that if Mr. Rosario had the requested documents regarding his pardon or his restoration of rights, he would have promptly produced them as well. The Florida Constitution provides that no person convicted of a felony shall be qualified to vote or hold office until his restoration of civil rights. Section 4A and Article 6 of the Florida Constitution, in accordance with Florida 6, okay. The Florida Attorney General's Office has issued opinions which provide that the section of the Florida Constitution is applicable to municipal offices. According to information provided by the National Association of the Criminal Defense Lawyers of Pennsylvania, a person convicted of a felony has his or her rights to vote restored in Pennsylvania once released from incarceration. This is an automatic without application. However, upon being convicted for a crime punishable by more than 1 year, a person loses his eligibility to serve in a jury, and upon conviction of felony, loses eligibility to hold office. In order to have one's civil rights restored to serve on a jury or hold office, it requires a pardon which must be applied for and granted. A recommendation from the Board of Pardons to the Governor of Pennsylvania is required. A pardon restores all legal disabilities. In order to restore one's privilege to have firearms, which is also lost upon conviction, it too requires an application to and approval from a court of law. The city charter provides in section 306, paragraph B, that a council member shall forfeit his office if he lacks at any time during his term of office any qualifications for the office prescribed by the charter or law. And the charter states that an office shall become vacant upon forfeiture of office, and such forfeiture will be declared by the remaining members of the council and vacant upon removal from office or manner authorized by law. Authorized by law. Based on the information from the Office of Executive Clemency in the state of Florida and the information received from the state of Pennsylvania, there is no documentation to demonstrate that his rights have been restored. Those facts are the basis for my ultimate decision.
Just a few comments. First, I keep hearing how Mr. Roper says we don't have the authority to do this, but I would like to read Mr. Roper's comments back into the appeals court. It says, the city council's determination as to whether a council member lacks any qualification to hold office, therefore, has forfeited his office, is entirely a discretionary function of the city council. So to me, that's a very clear signal that is, in fact, the duty and responsibility of the council. Disqualification issues that Mr. Japec talked about are ones that I have read as well and understand. Additionally, the section 306 of our charter says forfeiture of office. A council member shall forfeit his office if he lacks at any time during his term of office any qualification for the office prescribed by this charter or law. And Mr. Japec already read what the state of Florida says in regards to disqualifications under the Constitution of the state of Florida. So absent Mr. Rosario presenting proof of a pardon and his right to hold office within the state of Florida, I believe this council's actions are both appropriate and required.
If there is a document that Mr. Rosario holds from February of 2017 giving him the right to hold office, it should have been presented months and months ago. And since we still have not seen that piece of paper, then I'm going to agree with Mr. Radzik and Mr. Smith. Now we'll take public comment.
Mohammed Hassan, 146 West Law Street, Groveland. First of all, I remember quite clearly Mr. Griffin once said, when I was at this podium speaking and addressing the council, that this is a country of laws. I feel strongly to the city attorney it was totally irrelevant for you to mention those points that you mentioned simply because it was all hearsay, because you did say there is no evidence of paperwork which you did not receive. And those comments, I believe, were to some extent intimidating those who would like to make a decision tonight. Secondly, I am by no means white, I'm American, and I'm colored. But it detests me quite greatly when people whenever it becomes necessary, to use the race card as a trump card. And I heard tonight the mayor in question talking about his position being challenged because of being Hispanic. And then it behooves my intelligence for a learned attorney to come here and use similar tone of language. You know, let us stop using this race card. And I feel that this matter is so simple because, yes, I have not been present at every meeting here, but many meetings, Mr. Mayor, I did ask you some time ago as well, when I mentioned about those who seeking to be naturalized citizens in this country does not become naturalized unless you apply for naturalization. And therefore you have committed a crime which probably was a mistake. But you were running for office and you had more than adequate time to seek remedies. I don't know if you have the remedies, but I say, save us all this aggravation here. This matter is tearing the city apart because when people come here and wants to talk about Hispanic and blacks, Mr. Griffin constantly using the word blacks and so forth, let us use the term Americans. So let us save this city and the people of this town have lost a lot of money trying to solve a matter that is so simple. Either produce the documents you have or vacate. Simple as that. Because we are a country of laws. We saw recently in, I think it was Alabama, where the two persons running for office, one kept on saying, he has the proof. He has the proof. Well, produce it. And save us all this aggravation. Because I'm certain if you were to produce the evidence, because there has to be some evidence. The city attorney spoke about somebody calling her or she calling back. All this is hearsay because it is you say and he say. Similarly, let us stop this. If you have the documents, produce it. And if, pardon me for saying, if you don't have the documents, which you probably could have had, then pardon me for saying it is only your stupidity and foolishness. Let us stop this nonsense produce the documents, and let us move on in the business. This city is losing money. And why it is losing money? Those who are supporting, most of those who are supporting your position in office, it is not costing them anything. It is people like us who work. I work 24/7 as a businessman, although there is no need for me to do it,
Mr. Muhammad,
and it is costing me money.
your
Thank
time
you.
is up. Thank you.
Dale F. Rowland, 335 Silver Maple Road, Groveland. If you really mean what you say, then produce that paper. And you, Mr. Jimenez, saying that he's like Trump, well, yeah, you know, a lot of us feel about the taxes with Trump. That's no way to run a city, to hide what you have. If you have that pardon, then you should be producing it. But don't use the race card. Groveland is made up of blacks, Pakistani, Asians, everybody. If you use that, you're hurting our city. Don't hurt our city. Get out of the seat. You don't deserve it.
Chris Walker, Cherry Lakes. You know, it's amazing to me that the same people who says he has to produce something told President Barack Obama that he had to produce his birth certificate as well. Mr. Rosario does not have to produce anything. It is on the burden of the proof of the city of Groveland. And if the person who's supposed to be in charge of this meeting don't quiet these people down, and I see when I get up, you don't tell your friends to be quiet, but when somebody else is speaking in the audience, then you're quick to hit the gavel. Trust me, it's being recorded. Now, this lynch mob started because the unveiling of corruption upon Mr. Rosario's election. This council is overstepping your bounds. Someone lost a race, and 10 months later, we are sitting here even after the 5th District Court of Appeals told Ms. Carver, Mr. Schroff, and Mr. Wilson that their entire thing that they did in court was completely wrong, their injunction. And so now, you gotta prove that you're the mayor. You gotta prove that you're a citizen. You gotta prove blah, 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 blah. Well, y'all about to get slapped with a big lawsuit and you just don't even know it. So corruption continues. We have corrupt media in the room. I'm not talking about the news media. I'm talking about Lord Richie is here tonight as always, a part of their little team. And then none of these people who are sitting here tonight never come to any of these meetings. They are here tonight only when you get rid of Reverend Jones, only when you get rid of Rodney Lucas, only when you get rid of Mayor Rosario, and then Mr. John Griffin is next. And you won't see any of these people until they go after Mr. Griffin next. So people want to say there ain't no race card being played here. You better open up your eyes because you're blind. They are here for the same group of people who have continued the corruption in this city. If you don't march to their beat, you get pushed out. This is a big lawsuit coming. Pennsylvania is one of the 13 states where you don't have to get a pardon. I'm sorry, Mr. Ragland, I don't know what you're reading, because every person who gets released from probation, which is what Mr. Rosario had, or jail or prison, immediately gets their rights back upon release. This charter that you're using to do this with your corrupt city attorney is very vague, it's outdated, and you're creating your own judicial process that you have no legal grounds to do so. So now you're going to put this city in a big lawsuit, and we're going to lose a lot of money because why? Arrogant and corrupted politicians that are running this city and have been running the city for years is at the hand of this city. And Mr. Muhammad getting up speaking, wonderful, wonderful speech. Of course he's going to speak when the corrupt politicians erase the fines and the fees that he had and look over the little stuff that he was supposed to be doing that he should have been fined for, but he got that erased. Why? Because 2 of the corrupt politicians had their signs on his property. So his little speech means nothing to this public and it means nothing to me. Mr. Rosario, do what you gotta do. They need to prove that you can't be the mayor.
one comedy of errors. It really is. Number one, the law is that if you are a convicted felon, you can't register to vote. You got that part? You can't register to vote. Or, I'm sorry, to run for office. Now, even if you have had your civil rights restored in another state where it's automatic, that's not automatic for everything.
That's true.
Pennsylvania is only automatic if you were convicted of less than 1 year's service at the state penitentiary. Less. So you need to go back and read the law. So the process here is you're saying he can't serve. No, he can't apply. So let's get all our little ducks in a row. I don't know why you're spinning your wheels. I do know why, mostly because we've changed personalities so many times, still it's not working. And by the way, Chris, I really appreciate you butting the head of it, really do. But somebody has got to get it together. Mr. Rosario, you're not authorized. You have violated the laws of the state of Florida by even applying to run for the office you hold. Why voters' office up in Tiberias didn't do the background check, I don't know. But you would have been prosecutable even if you had never run for office because you had applied. That seems to be kind of open and above board to me. You need to kick your butt out. Have a nice night.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, as Chairman of the City Council. Vanessa Holiday, Water South Point. I'm so tired and I can barely go with this because, you know, I love the great debate. So I'm really kind of glad to be here tonight. I wish I wasn't so tired. But one thing I just want to say is that we continue to waste the taxpayers' money. And again, we've already had this discussion. This gentleman was out of seat for mayor for like almost 10 months. Almost 10 months. And reason being because he was, they were waiting for his turn to come up before the appeals court. It took that long. So my whole thing is back to what we said from the very beginning. Why are we rehashing this? This is what I don't get. I'm pretty sure that the judges, we're going to make that plural, on the appeals court that took 10 months to review his case were real clear that if he was not supposed to be mayor of a city, they would have let us know. Now, my point is this. You people really do not have, and I'm talking about my 3 council people, include my gentleman from the Beltway. You do not have the responsibility to do it. You may want to do it for whatever reasons, but you don't have the authority to do it. So understand, there will be sanctions against this. It will be. I don't know why you don't think it is. Now, again, Mr. Rosario already gave his piece. He does not have to show anybody anything. If he did, the circuit judges would have said that. Anything that had to be shown and submitted, obviously, was done by his attorney. Folks, laws, we need to move forward. His term is up in November. He didn't even finish half of his term. That was taken away from him. That in and of itself should be a lawsuit. So I'm just trying to figure out how long is this going to go on. People say, no, this is not any kind of discrimination or it's not racist. Well, you know what? It sure is perceived that way. A lot of these people that are coming up and speaking and talking, some of these people, this is their first time ever being in a courier building for a city hall, anything. So half of these people that are here, they don't even know what's, I would say more than half don't even know what's going on. They know via Facebook. And what is Facebook? That's about anybody's opinion. You can say anything. I don't know anybody too much in here. I know one lawyer, our counselor, I think there's maybe another one or two in the audience. Past that, I don't know anybody, and I don't even know if they know governance enough to practice the type of law to even tell you guys what to do. So, to me, that's what it seems like. It does seem like he has a target on his back. He was in office all of maybe, what, 2 months? And then somebody ran down to the court and put up some charges against him, and he had to wait 10 months to get back in. Now he's back in. He's been here, what now? All of possibly a month? And it's rehashing again. So again, I'm going to ask you guys, why are you doing this? Because somebody asked you to do it? Well, I come up here all the time and ask you to do things for the city. I ask you to see about these schools and get these schools ready and hire, talk to these people over at the county school board. I asked you to look into these water and these fields. You guys haven't done that. I've asked you to do a complete audit. You started doing an audit, then you cut the audit, and you said, well, no, we're going to not do the audit. Why don't we want to do the audit? So this is what I'm saying. There's so many things we can do. I asked to get this trash done out here on Highway 50. We are the gateway to this city. It looks like trash all in the median strip. We got trees planted, but we got trash. I asked for constructive things to be done. Doesn't take much to it, but instead of doing those types of things, you go after this guy and spend all of our time doing this. When can we do something that's constructive? That's all I want to know. This is a waste of everybody's time. None of you people are judges. Why don't you just let it go to court? Why do you think that you have the right to do this? And if you don't think it's perceived as racist, I'm going to tell you differently. Because guess what? Before the other black city managers was here, we never had one. Before, we never even had a black in senior staff. We never had a Hispanic in senior staff. Never. And now we have our first Latino mayor, and twice, not once, but twice, even after the circuit court told you, let him go, he's immediately be put back in his seat. Here, you guys come up, take him back out of the seat again. And that's only because you got a 3-3-3 vote. That's it. It's not enough for you. This always looks like a planned thing. So even if you don't want it to look like that, that's how it's perceived. And that's it, point blank, period. So I don't know why you just don't let this man finish the rest of his term out, and it ends in November, and let's move on to some real things. That's all I want to say about it, because there is so much that goes on. But I will tell you this, because I know, Vice Mayor, my time is coming to a close. One thing I'm going to tell you is I'm okay with getting up to a little talking every now and then. But what I'm really excellent at is giving sworn testimony at a depot. I got you.
Please, if you're going to come to the podium, please get in line. Start the clock.
Brad Avery at Waterside Point. I think this whole thing is kind of unfortunate. We've lived here for a little over 8 years, and my wife who just spoke told the truth about when we first moved here. I think they had one African-American employee in the entire city. And so we thought right away that we should get involved in the city and come down to city council meetings and speak to the council and try to move forward with more professionalism in the city and diversity and so forth. And that was something that was really our focus from the very beginning. As you can see, the residents that are here tonight are not really reflective of the city, the people that live in the city. The city is almost a 50-50 mix with minorities and also whites. So the crowd that's here is not actually representative of the city. But to the issue of removing our mayor who was elected into his position and all of the foolishness that has gone on, throughout his tenure, is that you really don't have the authority. I mean, if he decides that he's not moving out of that seat, it's going to become a legal battle. It's going to be a legal issue no matter how you look at it. And if I was him, after this vote, I'd keep showing up.
Amen.
Thank you. Anyone else?
This is a really, really hard
Your name,
question.
please.
My name is Paula Hall from Cherry Ridge. and I have a very, very difficult question to ask you. About all the things that have been said tonight, you sit there as a stolen power. Kids 17, 18 years old have died, given up their life, never got to raise a family, share anything. How can you sit in that chair and dishonor the veterans and the Vietnam veterans? I just ask you, please explain that to me. At night, I pray for you because you have such evil inside of you. And you can laugh all you want, 23%. Please.
Point of order.
Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment?
Ed Meyer, 151 Bombing Coast Road. Some time ago, when Mr. Rosario became mayor, I stood at this podium, and I want everybody in the audience to know that I come to most of these meetings. I'm going to rehash a little bit of what has happened
Please address the chair.
through the process. Anyway, I told Mr. Rosario when he became mayor that if he did not have what he needed to be in that seat, that he needed to go. I'm saying that again. I am not taking the mayor's side, but I want to rehash something that his attorney has said and some of the opposition has said. I believe, for what I read with the council, your city charter does not permit you to take action on this evening. You may well do so, but I warn you, for what I hear, Mr. Rosario does not give up. He is not a quitter. And we have to understand that. And there is documents apparently that exist that need to be looked into. So any foolish moves on your part would be wrong. It all started with, the lawsuit started with Mr. Wilson. He started the action. There was no problem in this city until he started the lawsuit. I want to make that clear. Of course, the Orlando Sentinel never goes into that. Who started the problem? And then it went to the court. The court looked at it. It came back. Nothing happened. And tonight, I read your paperwork, counsel. You're going by what the prosecutor, and I'm calling the prosecutor Derek Strzok, has brought to the you people. The prosecutor is convincing you, if you don't rule on this tonight, Mr. Wilson will sue the city of Groveland. That is my interpretation. Very unique. Put the pressure on the council, and if you don't do it, I'm going to sue the city of Groveland. This needs to go back to the court. I think Mr. Wilson started this. He needs to finish it. He needs to bring it to the court, have it out, and it's over. It's that simple. But for this council to sit here and be, and I'm going to use the word strong-armed, into a decision this evening is absolutely wrong. Wrong. I'm not sticking up for that man. He could be totally guilty. Totally. But he has not had his day in court. He was prepared to show documents if the court case would have went on. And what really did happen? He dismisses, Mr. Wilson dismisses his part of the court case so you guys could re-up. Wrong. Wrong. How unique. How unique that you are now becoming lawyers tonight. I'm sorry. I cannot grant you to be the lawyers of this city. The law is the court and the governor. And once again, Mr. Mayor, if you're guilty, step down tonight. Get out of the chair. If you're not, continue to fight. Thank you.
Tom Siccio, Waterside Point. I don't care how you vote tonight. The thing is, this should have been addressed before the election. And I asked this once before, I've been to several meetings also. There should be a resolution, something where candidates are vetted before they even run. I would think that every council member should have a background check on them, and then we'll know. This is so simple, it defies logic. We're now almost over a year, and this is going on. And I agree, if you're guilty, Mr. Rosario, you should step down. Or produce the papers to show everybody that you're legit, and it goes on. We have an attorney over here. The council has to take the attorney's advice. I don't know what she's spoken yet to say whether the authority or not, but between the attorney and you guys, this could be easily resolved if you show your clemency papers or whatever papers, your documents you need. But this, again, regardless of how you vote tonight, please do a resolution sometime in the future so that background checks are done on every candidate before they run. This way we know ahead of time, and that people vote, they'll know ahead of time. Simple. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Cicero. Anyone else?
Linda Jacobson Trilogy. First, I would like to say I'm so saddened so many times that, as they were saying earlier, the race card is played in this town at city council meetings. And I only hear that being said the last year or so, or 2 years. I remember when we had a black mayor. I remember, I even had to ask Marie when we were on the visioning committee, was DeAndre, the head of the CRA, black or not? Because I don't even remember. He was a good person doing a good job. I didn't pay attention to his color. I pay attention to the people. So it really hurts me when people talk about race as being a reason for people making a decision. I make a decision based on the person, not their race or heritage or anything. Secondly, I hear a lot saying that the problem started with the lawsuit being called. If I recall, it was January a year ago when our city attorney, Anita, brought forth to the council the documents that said, let's find out whether Mayor Rosario is allowed to serve in office. That was supposed to be an agenda item where the public could talk about it. The public was not given a chance to talk about that a year ago because our interim acting city manager, Rodney Lucas, during his announcement time and city manager report said, convince the council to table the discussion. So rather than having the discussion that we are having this month, this discussion should have been had a year ago, long before the lawsuit. And that whole item was tabled because 2 people voted to table it, 2 people voted not to table it, and Mayor Rosario broke the tie by voting not to table the discussion on himself. And I remember the city attorney saying at that time, because he asked her, can I vote on this? And she said, well, it's an ethical question, not a legal question. And he chose to vote on it as well. So he voted on tabling the motion, tabling discussion on the motion, asking for a presentation that he had the ability to run for this office. I think we have to go back and think that that whole scenario might have ended a year ago had that motion not been tabled. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening, Council, Mayor, Joe Miles, 623 Duncan Drive. I wasn't going to get up and speak tonight, but I thought for hearing some of the people in the best interest that I did. One of the problems, Mr. Rosario, you spoke on many occasions of your caring about the citizens of the city of Groveland, saving the taxpayers' dollars. To date, the city's insurance companies paid approximately $100,000 to defend you. Your attorney just got up a few minutes ago and assured the city they would spend additional legal fees. You could end this entire process immediately by laying a pardon on the table right now and showing it to this council. If you don't have that particular pardon, be a man, show self-respect for yourself and these citizens, and get up from that chair and remove yourself from office. Stop wasting taxpayers' money. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alex.
My name is Jimmy Crawford. I am at 1201 West Highway 15 in Claremont. I am not a citizen in Groveland, but I'm a land use and development attorney that's done a lot of work in here and in South Lake County over the last 23 years now. Probably done a dozen projects in Groveland and always found it a great place to work, a great place for businesses, a great place to build communities for people to live. I just want to say that this last year, 15 months of controversy has really hurt the city in ways that aren't evident right now. I have 4 or 5 clients who wish to do business with the city. They do business with the city and they wish to do more. They include one of the largest private employers in the county who wants to build more and employ more people in Groveland. People who want to build affordable housing up near the industrial park where it's greatly needed. People who want to build multi-family housing that we really need for the rentals in Groveland. At the moment, I told all of them that it's better to hold off. The way the court decisions have come down in this, and I haven't been involved in any way in any of them, other than reading them when they come out. The only substantive decision that was rendered was at the circuit court level, and it was an injunction to prevent the mayor from exercising his duties. That was overturned at the 5th TCA on procedural matters. They didn't say anything about whether he does or does not have the right to hold office. They said the wrong kind of lawsuit was filed, go back to the starting line and start over. If every vote that's taken while the mayor is here now is a 3-2 vote, 2-3 vote, whichever way it comes out, and it's later determined the mayor doesn't have the ability to hold office, all of those votes are in question. So I can't tell my clients to come in here and spend a few $1 million on a vote that may turn out to have not been valid. So we need to fix it, we need to solve it and move on in some manner. I don't have any dog in the hunt as to how to fix it, but we sure need to get out of this gridlock and move on.
Right. Thank you. Any more public comment? Public comment is closed. Any more discussion amongst council? Rick?
I don't think it's appropriate for any more discussion from the council because then it's not giving the residents time to come back up and discuss. So I don't think we should be discussing anything more.
Then I'm going to call for the vote. Mr. Reddick, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. There's nothing else left on the agenda, so the meeting is adjourned.
Township News 1, hosted by AC Justice, bringing you the best in news and entertainment. Let's give thanks to our special guests. Remember, we do all sides, the accused, the accuser, and then we fact check. And also, a special edition of Crime Grind. Let's get ready to be informed. Join us. Township News 1, all copyrights reserved.